up, people? This is a good video. I like doing videos like this because I just see the bullshit. Oh, I knocked over my little thing. I see the bullshit that's going on behind the scenes, and a lot of people may not see it. So this is the attorney for this woman who was married to the guy that was killed. Remember the Chad Reed shooting? He's filing a lawsuit on behalf of the dead guy, Chad. And here's the woman that was in the car videotaping that says she loves her husband. So what people don't realize, when lawyers do press conferences and they get in front of the camera, they always want a guy standing there with a bunch of papers or a briefcase to look like they're working and they're doing a lot of this. So when I saw this dude, I go, oh, dude, come on, man. He's a plan. He's just dead. They also like to surround themselves around people on their side. So doing this entire speech, you will see these people nodding and concurring and giving nonverbal support and kind of saying, yes, what he's saying is true. This is all a big orchestrated thing that all DAs do and all lawyers do when they're doing press conferences. So I want to go through kind of what, now this guy is a Texas attorney, so I kind of like him. He's a little in your face. I like the way he's a type A, kind of not back down, even though I don't agree with what he's saying. And at first I was like, you little piece of crap, you're an anti-Second Amendment going after the gun. And then before he ends his press conference, he comes back and says, I carry a gun, I'm pro-sec. And I was like, all right, I'll cut you some slack, dude. I thought you had lost your Texas roots. But anyway, even though it may sound like I'm going against this guy, I kind of like this guy. Even though I don't agree with what he's saying. I would love to debate him because what he's saying here is kind of BS, and I'll show clips to kind of show that. Now, I have the speed turned up, so he's going to be talking fast. If you would like to go look at it yourself, Everything Lubbock, Chad Reed lawsuit press conference, all right? So I've got it sped up so people are talking fast for time purposes because I'm going to be yapping and pausing and doing all this other crap. Here we go.
Wish I had a podium. Okay, this is Jennifer Reed. Jennifer is the widow of Chad Reed. Jennifer will not be answering questions, but she will have a brief statement that she would like to read.
Okay, what that means, she won't be asking questions because I don't want her to say something that'll hurt my case, and I can't control her if she's asking questions. So I'm going to give her a statement that I think I want the message that helps us the most. She'll read it. You'll get the emotional heartstrings from this woman who lost her husband reading what I told her to write. He wrote this. And then I'll answer questions. This is a good lawyer move that he's doing, but somebody that understands it sees through it.
As you know, there's been a lot of information and a lot of misinformation surrounding the shooting of Chad Reed. We filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Kyle Carruth and the companies that he is involved in.
Companies that he's involved in. I think they're suing his dad's company because his dad owns a company, and he has 3 companies or something. He'll get into that. But they're going after the money. Don't make no mistake about this. This is about show me the money.
And because there's been no action from the authorities related to what happened on November 5th, that's why we filed.
Okay, what he's saying is because there's no action, he's giving a dig at the prosecution and the AG, and he's trying to show them that I'm going to trash you if you don't charge this guy, and I want to make you look like a bad guy. He really has no teeth. And any DA worth of salt be like, I don't give a shit if he's, I mean, when I worked for the DA and there were lawyers out there bashing about charging, and, you know, we'd sit down and brief it, and he'd talk to the investigators, we'd talk about the case, he'd be like, you know, you're getting a lot of heat, this and that. He'd just sit there and shake his head and goes, I don't give a shit what they say. I'm the freaking DA. If they want to be the DA, run against me. I make the decisions. I ain't freaking charging. I don't care what they say. So that, to me, is a DA that's doing the right thing for the right reason. But obviously, he's going to try and poke these guys to get them to charge. Now, the reason why he says we filed because they haven't done anything, because most civil lawsuits, you want to file after the criminal charge because the criminal charge gives you a whole bunch of information. You get witnesses, you get statements that they did, you get interviews, you get more videotape. You let the government pretty much prepare your case for you. And because there's a higher standard in the government, if they don't get a conviction, they did a lot of legwork that now you get to use in your lawsuit. If they do get a conviction, it makes your case a lot easier because there's a higher standard in criminal than there is in civil. So when you said we filed this now because there's no action taken, if they had filed and taken action, he would have waited. And that's why.
That lawsuit, I believe, has led to some action. And we have copies of the most recent lawsuit that we've amended that we will make available to everyone who wants a copy. Now let's be clear about what happened on November 5th.
Okay, so here's where he, as an attorney, can give statements. He can make false accusations, false misrepresentations, because he is not the client. They can't use what he says against the client, saying that they perjured or they lied or they did something. So lawyers get to say anything, whether it's true or not. Now, he just said he wants to tell you what's happening, but I don't necessarily agree with what he's saying.
Chad Reed was supposed to have custody of his son that day. He was supposed to have custody beginning around 3 p.m. Chad had exchanged multiple texts with his ex-wife, Christina. We have those texts.
Okay, so those texts can and probably will be damaging if the wife is like they're portraying her, playing these games and interfering with the custody, etc. One of the reporters asked him at the end if he thinks she should be charged, which I thought was a good question. I don't know if it was a plant question, but it's a good question. Sometimes attorneys will want, if a DA wants a question asked, he will have the spouse of somebody that works in the DA's office or one of the secretaries or something stand out there and say, I want you to ask this question after the press conference. And then he already has an answer. It looks like he's getting cold, but he wants to get some information out, but he doesn't want to say it because he'll look mean. But if somebody asks it, then he can answer the question. So those are little dirty DA lawyer tricks I learned from Jeff Reisig, the dirtiest DA in freaking the country. Here we go.
We know exactly what she said to him and what he said to her. Chad was simply trying to determine his son's whereabouts.
Now, that may or may not be true. Normally, when I hear parents just wanting to find out where their kid's at, it's never that. It's like, why are you being a bitch? Why are you with that guy? Where's my money? You were supposed to pay the bill. Where's the clothes? It's never just about, I really love my kid and I want to see it. That never freaking happens, people. Rick, you can't say that. I did. I tried. Whatever. I've dealt with too many of these. Remember, I worked this for many years.
Christina purposely did not tell Chad where his son was.
Okay, so he's saying purposely. Maybe she withheld it because she didn't want visitation. Maybe she withheld it because she was being a pain in the butt. I'm not saying she's an angel in this, by no means. But he's saying she purposely did it. Let's wait till we see text or something and we hear his tone of voice and he's not threatening and saying, you better tell me or I'm going to do this. If you don't tell me, I'm going to do this. And she's like, well, I ain't telling you, because they're arguing and they hate each other more than they love their kids, which is usually the case.
His son had been sick. Chad was trying to figure out whether he had went to school, where the young man was, and where he could be picked up. Christina purposely did not tell him. Although she did tell him, she was at work.
I'm kind of confused, and I don't remember how old this kid is. But most kids have phone nowadays. And if the dad's playing this, I can't get in touch with my kid, and he has a phone, and the kid's not returning your call, and the kid don't want to talk to you, that's not the mother's fault. And I've seen that also, where they come in and they attack each other and they blame each other because the kid doesn't want to talk, doesn't want to go, etc. And it's like, look, go to court. And I'm not saying there's not kid manipulation by parents, and they'll say, you don't want to go with your dad this to me, and they try to turn one parent against the other, and sometimes it works. But that's not her fault. If this kid had a phone and he's old enough to call and he can't communicate with his son because his son won't communicate with him, and now he's making it and using it as an excuse to attack the mother. Again, there usually ain't no good guys in these cases.
Christina was using her kids to take out her aggression against her ex-husband. Too many times we see fathers and mothers who share custody, who use innocent kids as pawns in an unnecessary struggle.
Agree.
Christina worked at 2104 90th Street right here in Lubbock, Texas. That property is owned by Johnny Bob Caruth, Kyle Caruth's father.
Okay, so it sounds like mom works for boyfriend's dad, and that was somehow a thorn in someone's side, and now they're going after dad's company for some reason. I'm not sure how he's going to get that connected, but we'll see.
According to the Secretary of State, from that address, at least 3 businesses operate. Those businesses have been sued in this lawsuit. Chad and Jennifer stopped by his ex-wife's place of business. The only reason he went by there,
Of course, the only reason you go by somebody's business address in an ex-custody argument, it is not, hey, honey, I'm here and I'm really just trying to find my kid, and you want that. That ain't the way that goes down. I guarantee you. Hopefully, this business has video footage, and since the Attorney General is doing the investigation now, hopefully those investigators will get that video of what his demeanor and what the conversation was like when he trespassed or went to her business and tries to cause problems. Because if I had my guess, that's what really happened. But I don't know.
The only reason they went by there was to see if his son was there. And
notice the head. Yeah, see, he's telling the truth. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
to pick up his son. He went there looking for his son because his ex-wife would not tell him where his son was. He didn't go looking for a fight. He didn't go looking for an argument.
Really? From the video I saw where he got in the guy's face, looks like he was kind of looking for an argument, a fight to me.
And he didn't take a weapon.
How do you know he didn't take a weapon? See, if I was investigating this case, I would be using this guy's statement and I would be finding out the answers to the things he's saying. And I'd be like, is there a weapon in the car? Does he own a gun? Does he have a gun? Do you own a gun? Do you have a concealed permit? Do you keep it in the car? That day, was there one? Now, they can lie and say it wasn't, but then I would say, well, is there a gun in the car now? Yeah. Well, why wasn't it in there that day? I left it at home that day. Whatever. Again, just because this attorney says it, damn sure don't make it true.
While at his wife's place of business, the two argued. We've all seen the video.
Oh, so they went to the business just to get his kid to check on it, but they argued. Shocking. Who could have predicted? I'm Kreskin, the freaking magic guy. I just pulled that out of the air and I happen to be correct. Rick, you can't do that. That's not fair. Whatever.
Chad Reed was not violent. I want you to look carefully at that video. Chad Reed kept quite a distance between himself and his ex-wife.
Okay, I wanted to pause that here because I want to show a little bit on video what he just said. So this is where he says he wasn't aggressive. This is before the first shot on the ground was fired. This was when the homeowner was on his porch holding a gun, which in Texas you can brandish a gun. So he's on his porch holding his gun. And according to this lawyer on a press release, this guy wasn't violent, even though he stepped from off the ground onto his porch, even though he chest bumped him and then put his hands on his gun. According to the lawyer, this guy was just worried about his kid. Okay.
This is all. Call 911.
Yeah, he's not aggressive. Damn, I'm glad that attorney cleared that up because when I saw the video, I thought he was aggressive. And then when the attorney finally said that he wasn't aggressive, watched the video, I came back and watched it. And I went, oh, damn, that attorney was right. This guy was just the poor victim. He wasn't aggressive at all. He didn't encroach. He didn't push. He didn't lean. Shocking.
Call 911.
Grab the gun. He also said, I think I'm going to take that gun from you or something.
Call 911.
The shot is fired.
Call 911.
And he gets in his face again. No. He wasn't aggressive. This is after he went to his ex-wife's workplace of business and argued with her. Oh, I'm sorry. He didn't argue with her. He went to her place of business just to find his son. I mean, it's just crazy. All right, here we go. Back to this credible attorney.
His ex-wife wasn't violent. Chad didn't have a gun. His ex-wife didn't have a gun. They simply argued as exes sometimes do. It happens every single minute of every single hour of every single day across the state of Texas.
I definitely agree with that. They argue, and nobody was violent. I totally agree with that.
And across the United States. But for whatever reason, Kyle Carruth decided to go back into his house and get a weapon.
For whatever reason means this guy was trespassing. He was asked and told to leave. He was arguing. The homeowner didn't want it escalating to anything further. It was disrupted to his peace, his house, the kids in the house, the parents, the neighbors. I don't want it going on. You guys go to court and handle this. Arguing in front of my house is no good. I need you to leave. And the trespasser refused to leave.
He even says, he doesn't say when he walks into the house, I'm in danger, you're taking my property, you're stealing from, nothing like that.
Doesn't have to say that to go arm himself with his own property. He doesn't even need to justify why he's got a gun. He could have had a gun on him when he walked to the front door. He could have had a gun on him when he walked from the car. There is nothing in Texas that says you have to justify why you have a gun on your own property. Nothing in Texas law states that.
All he said was, get off my property. And he leaves, and he returns with a weapon.
Get off my property is what's called notice. You're trespassing. When you refuse, you're committing a crime. When you step up and encroach and get on my face and chest bump me, you're committing a crime of assault. When you threaten to take my gun, you're threatening to commit a felony on my property after I've asked you to leave and you were trespassing. I still, and this isn't a popular opinion, I'm getting a lot of hate for this, I still think the guy that shot him is absolutely justified, hands down.
Kyle Caruth made a decision to come outside and then interject himself into a conversation that he had no part of with a weapon.
Actually, he did have a part of it. It was his property. It was his house. He had asked the guy to leave. He didn't want to do it. See, you could turn this around and say, Chad came on his property and he interjected himself on these people's peaceful living in their home and on their property against their will to argue with his wife. You could say it that way, right? Which one? Who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy?
We believe that decision was unreasonable and that decision was negligent.
Just because you believe it doesn't make it so.
Kyle Caruth then began to argue with Chad Reed and then shot the weapon at Chad Reed's feet. That also was unreasonable, irresponsible, and negligent.
Actually, some people may say, you know what? The fact that he shot on the ground after just presenting and brandishing the weapon on the criminal trespasser, the shot on the ground was just further evidence that he did not want to shoot anybody. He was trying to do everything he could to get that guy to leave his property so he wouldn't have to shoot him. And in fact, he didn't shoot him until he was assaulted and was thrown off the porch.
We also believe that to be an aggravated assault. Completely unnecessary.
So when he fired the gun, it was an aggravated assault. But when his client or her husband got in his face and chest bumped, that was totally calm and he just wanted to see his kid.
And needless. I have been shot at before. I've had people point weapons at me before. I can tell you, you have really one of two choices. You can either try to defend yourself or you can run. The two men struggled.
So now we're turning the trespasser who refused to leave, who got up on the porch, who chest bumped, who pushed the homeowner. Now we're making him the victim that he had to defend himself. He couldn't leave. He couldn't leave the property that he was trespassing on.
They separated. They were more than 3 feet apart, and Kyle Caruth shot and killed Chad Reed right there at that very spot.
They separated. Okay, let's take a look at this separation. So on the video here is where he stepped up on a porch and he pushed him. This is after. Remember, he already fired a shot.
Call 911. Call 911. Call 911. Call 911.
So that's what he calls separated. This is what this attorney called separated.
911. Call 911.
He gets swung off his own porch, having his hand on the gun, trying to disarm a property owner who is on his porch, who has already asked you to leave, who has fired around the ground to tell you to leave. This guy grabs the gun, tries to disarm him, and throws him off his own porch. And that's, according to this attorney, they separated. Really? Let me hear that again, because I'm not sure I caught that.
Apart, and Kyle Caruth shot and killed Chad Reed right there at that very spot. They were more than 3 feet apart, and Kyle Caruth shot and killed. Defend yourself or you can run. The two men struggled. They separated.
They separated. Isn't that amazing? I mean, you would think that this guy saw a different video, but he's just lying, because that's what lawyers do.
They were more than 3 feet apart, and Kyle Caruth shot and killed Chad Reed right there at that very spot. That also was unreasonable, irresponsible, and negligent. Chad Reed died at that address. After the shooting, the shooter did not render aid.
Okay, so that's going to be a key, that he didn't render aid. There's no law that says you have to render aid. from a criminal that just tried to disarm you and trespass and try to kill you if he'd got your gun. You don't know if he was going to kill him. So remember, I want you to hear the statement again, because he makes a point of this. The mean guy that we're suing did not render aid. Remember that?
Yes. After the shooting, the shooter did not render aid.
Okay, he didn't render aid. Really? So this video kind of gives a clear audio to where he says, "I'll take that gun from you."
God damn it, I'll take it from you.
I'll take it from you, all right? Okay, so you remember that the attorneys made a point that nobody rendered aid to this guy, or that the suspect, the shooter, didn't render aid. Remember that? Let's see what his girlfriend, who's standing there crying, how she rendered aid since she was there.
Call 911. Call 911. I have it on video, Kyle. You
Hear her? Notice how she's running and rendering aid? I have it on video. She's still arguing. They're still freaking arguing. And the attorney is going to say, this guy didn't render aid. Well, if I was him, I'm not sure I'd render aid. First of all, because the guy tried to take my gun. Second of all, I got some crazy woman in a car that I don't know if she has a gun and she's going to come at me. I don't know whether she's as crazy as he is. It just amazes me that she can sit in a car and not render aid to supposedly her loving husband, and they're blaming him for not rendering aid, but they're not saying nothing about her.
You did it, not him.
I told all of y'all to leave.
We came to get his son.
He's not here.
She should have told that.
Notice she's still arguing while her loving husband is dying. This is not going to play well in a civil trial. The jury is going to see this and be like, really? You're crying now and you're blaming him for not rendering aid, and after he was shot, you sat in the car and did this? Really?
She should have told that.
None of y'all should be here.
Does she sound like she's worried about her husband? Does she sound like, is he alive? Is somebody going to stop the bleeding? Does she sound like she gives a shit about him now? But Rick, there wasn't money involved yet. Okay.
None of y'all should be here. I asked you to leave. I did everything. I did not want to do any of this.
Notice, no help. Sitting in her car, still arguing. Hang on, let's get back to the attorney.
Instead, he stood there and said, as Chad was either dying or was already dead, he stood there and said, I told you to get off my property.
Notice he's not saying what the crying woman was sitting in the car nagging. Rick, you shouldn't do that, Chad. We were just right. Rick, why are you picking on this poor little woman? Oh, I'm sorry. She's crying and holding a picture, so now that means more credit. Okay.
He didn't say, "Oh, I shot because I was in danger of my life. I shot because I thought he was going to hurt me. I shot because I was in some sort of fear." No. He simply said, "I told you so. I told y'all to leave." That doesn't sound like somebody that was in fear of their lives. It doesn't sound like somebody who was acting in self-defense.
Somebody doesn't have to articulate why they shot somebody. That was a critical incident. He was drug into this. So, I mean, he can make the point, and some people will buy into it. I don't buy into it.
I want you to look very carefully at that video. Look at what Kyle Carruth said before he went and got that weapon, and look at what he said after he pulled the trigger. That tells the tale about whether there is so-called self-defense in this case. Chad Reed's death was needless. The whole evolution that day was unnecessary. But here's the part that makes one shake their head and wonder. People all over the state of Texas and all over the United States are having the same reaction. Why wasn't that man arrested?
See, here's where this lawyer loses me. I think it's bullshit when you use your gun that you're automatically arrested. I think that's a bad policy. I think that's bullshit that it happens. I'm glad he wasn't arrested. And not everyone that shoots somebody gets arrested. Because, case in point, Alec Baldwin has not been arrested. And he shot and killed somebody. So this guy's statement that everyone else gets arrested is another lie. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a misstatement, a confusion of fact, a misrepresentation.
Why wasn't that man arrested? The rules are very clear across the United States. The rules are very clear in most police departments across the country. When there's a shooting and a death, an arrest is made, period.
The rules are very clear. There is no freaking rule like that. That's total bullshit. There's absolutely no rule anywhere that says if somebody's involved in shooting, they have to be arrested. Cops are involved in shootings every hour of every day in this country, and none of them are arrested. There is nothing that says if you use your gun in self-defense that you should be arrested. Only for pesky citizens, except Alec Baldwin and other people, Hollywood stars, etc. Then they get exceptions. But otherwise, you pesky citizens, you should get arrested. This is where this guy kind of loses me a little bit. And this is where I kind of turned off on him and went, oh, okay, you're one of those anti-little gun left-wing California plants. But he acts like a Texan, so I won't say that.
No arrest was made here. Very few people were even questioned. The man who pulled the trigger and killed Chad Reed is still walking around in this community. You know what his biggest concern was after killing Chad Reed? What concessions are we going to bring to the kids' game? You'll learn about that as this case progresses.
So now, again, we have to bash him and we have to turn public support away from the mean gun owner and put it on the poor woman that was videotaping in the car that failed to render aid. Oh, I'm sorry. She loves him. I forgot. I can't say that.
Kyle Cruz going around this community as if nothing happened. He shot and killed a man, a father of 2 sons, a loved husband. He's walking around as if nothing happened. And the entire police department, with few exceptions, has recused itself. We had fits trying to figure out where the gun was. We had to ask 3 or 4 different people, where is the weapon that killed Chad Reed?
Look, you don't have to ask. You're a freaking defense attorney. You know damn well the gun's in evidence. You're running around like, oh, it was a big conspiracy. They were hiding it. We couldn't find it anywhere. Did you ask? Because I'm pretty sure it was probably in the evidence room.
Where's that? We just found out this morning that now we're told that, oh, the evidence, the weapon that killed that man is in an evidence locker.
Wow, that's shocking. Who could have predicted that shit?
This family has a right to know these answers. The entire district attorney's office has recused itself. Sua sponte recused itself. We don't even have a judge in this case.
We don't have a judge? You shouldn't have a judge. What do you mean you don't have a judge?
The best we have is, we're told the 9th Administrative Judicial District is going to appoint a judge sometime next week. How do you think that makes Jennifer Reed feel?
I don't really care how she feels. The criminal justice system should not be run on feelings. It should be run on the law.
Because of this lawsuit, the Attorney General's office is now investigating. This case has been referred to the Attorney General's office. Okay.
Well, he's making it sound like it was referred and they're doing it. Anytime a DA's office recluses himself or takes himself out of the case because of conflict, it automatically advances to the next law enforcement level, which is the AG's office.
Conversations with the Attorney General himself, and he assures me that this is going to be thoroughly investigated, and if charges are warranted, that they will be brought. I'm going to hold him to that. Jennifer's going to hold him to that. I've been told that the investigators and the DA are the attorneys from the AG's office who are assigned to this case are some of the best that the AG's office has to offer. I expect them to do their jobs.
Wow. I could have never predicted that a government agency would say that their investigators are the best. I've never heard that before, man. That must really mean a lot. Every freaking agency always says they have the best.
There's certain legal principles in criminal law. There's something called provoking the difficulty. You cannot interject violence into a situation and then claim self-defense. It's not the way it works.
So, who injected violence here? Was it the trespasser that was arguing and refused to leave? Was it the criminal trespasser that stepped up on a guy's front porch and hit him in the chest with a bump? Was it the trespasser that grabbed the gun that provoked violence? No. According to this attorney, the mean guy, the homeowner, the property owner who armed himself on his own freaking property, he's the bad guy.
You cannot provoke violence and then claim self-defense. You cannot assault someone and then when they react, claim self-defense.
You mean like Chad got his chest bumped and got up on his porch and pushed him back and grabbed his gun and threw him off the porch? Is that what you're talking about, the assault?
Shooting a weapon in the direction of an individual is an assault.
Oh, that's the part he's talking about. I'm sorry. I was confused.
You cannot assault someone and then turn around and claim self-defense. Under the civil law, everyone has an obligation to act reasonably. Everyone has an obligation to act responsibly. Yeah,
the problem with that is everybody's definition of reasonable and responsible if you ask 100 people, you'll get 100 different answers. That's the problem.
It is unreasonable and irresponsible to interject yourself into a conversation that you have no business being a part of. It's irresponsible and negligent for you to leave, go into a structure, and return with a weapon and interject yourself into an...
Notice he said leave and go into a structure. That was a very definitive choice by not saying home. He went into his home. It wasn't a structure. It was a living dwelling. He went into his home to arm himself on his own property because a person was trespassing and refusing to leave. But if you listen to him, he just went into some structure, grabbed a gun.
Argument that you have no part of. It's irresponsible for you to shoot the weapon in the direction of someone else who is unarmed, who is not moving towards you.
Yeah, he wasn't moving toward him. He just assaulted me and stuck his chest in my face and got up on my property, refused to leave. He wasn't a threat. Man, did this guy and me watch the same video that I just showed? Are you kidding me?
We'll prove in the case, I think it'll be pretty easy to prove, that Kyle Caruth's actions that day were unreasonable and irresponsible. Let me say a word for the people that own weapons, that own guns across the state of Texas. If you're like me and you lawfully own a weapon...
I lawfully own a weapon. I'm not sure I'm like you, because I'm not going to sit up here and make up freaking lies. But anyway.
And you're responsible with that weapon. You watch that video, you probably have the same reaction I had. That person with that weapon was not acting responsibly.
This guy's, he should be a bobblehead. He could have put a little statue with a bobblehead back here that just went back and forth and got the same effect. I'm sorry, I forgot. I was looking at the bobblehead and I forgot what he said.
That person with that weapon was not acting responsibly. Was not acting reasonably. There was no need for any of this.
I disagree. I own a gun. I think he was acting. I want everybody to be clear, and I think I've said it before. I would not have shot this guy. But I think the shooting is justified under the law.
We support the right to bear arms. We support the right to reasonably use those weapons and guns and so forth. No one can support what happened on that day. Chad.
I support it. Sorry, dude. Another lie. No one will support it. I support it.
Reed died unnecessarily. And here's what we need from you. We are calling on anyone who has knowledge of this situation to come forward.
So this is a good move at a press conference. You hold a press conference and basically you get anybody that hates or dislikes this woman, this father, or the father that hired the woman. You get anybody that has any dislike for the other party to send you damaging text, damaging images, or can say damaging stuff. So you basically just say, hey, if anybody hates this guy, this is a good time to get him back. Come contact me, and I'm going to use it against him. So that's what this attorney is doing.
We are calling on anyone who has knowledge of this situation to come forward, and that includes Kyle Caruth's relationships with others.
Relationships. Any girlfriend that thinks she was wronged, that thinks she didn't get her fair share, that he may have cheated on, that he wasn't nice to. Any ex-girlfriends. Oh, we love ex-girlfriends. Yeah.
Others that might impact what happened on November 5th. If you have evidence, no matter how small, we want to have it. We're easy to find. If you have texts with Kyle Caruth or any of his relatives, we want them. We believe that there was animosity on the part of Kyle Caruth against Chad Reed that existed long before November 5th.
I agree there probably was animosity. That doesn't change what the video shows.
We believe that there were things said by the perpetrator, Kyle Caruth, long before November 5th about Chad Reed. If you have information or evidence that pertain to interactions with Kyle Caruth, anything he said about Chad Reed or the situation of Chad Reed's marriage, we want that. Specifically, we want the texts because we know they exist. As I've said, we're calling on the AG's office to fully investigate this matter vigorously. And we ask that charges be brought if appropriate. We want action. I think it's pretty clear this family is grieving. They are suffering. They deserve justice. So far, they've gotten nothing. Jennifer Reed watched her unarmed husband get gunned down and killed in front of her eyes.
And sat in the car and argued while he was bleeding and dying. Oh, I'm sorry. He didn't want to say that.
We want action. We have a very short statement that Jennifer's going to read. Can you do it? Yeah.
My name is Jennifer Reed. I'm blessed to be a Reed now. And Chad had 2 sons and also a daughter. that was not there at the time, but she goes to College Station. Chad Reed is my husband. He was a good husband, and I loved him more than anything in this world.
I loved him so much when he was laying there bleeding, I was arguing with the guy that shot him. I'm sorry. Let this finish.
We only went there to try and find his son, who we thought who would be there. Chad was not a violent man. He did not have a gun. I saw Kyle Cruz shoot.
He wasn't a violent man, but I believe in my other video I did his criminal history, and he had a resisting arrest and a drunk driving or a couple other charges. I can't remember them all.
Kill my husband. Kyle Cruz has not been arrested. Please, I ask the police to take action. I ask the Attorney General's office to take action. I want justice for my husband, Chad Reed.
Who thinks she wrote that statement or the attorney wrote it? Raise your hand if you think she wrote that statement. You're a freaking idiot. Get your hand down.
Take a few questions. Go ahead.
Why? Why has justice been delayed in this case?
I want you to ask the police department that.
Why hasn't he been arrested? That sounds like a setup question, but whatever.
I want you to insist upon an answer, and then I want you to encourage the AG's office to prosecute if necessary. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
We saw an investigator at the courthouse in the AG's office on Friday. Can you explain why they were there?
You can ask them why. I can tell you what they did here in Lubbock last week. We've been talking to them, as you know. They interviewed Jennifer briefly. How long did that last? A couple hours, maybe?
Maybe.
Yeah. So they...
couple hour interview is not what I would call a briefly interview. That's a pretty good interview, 2 hours interview.
They came here I'm assuming they're interfacing with the police, whoever has the evidence, and they wanted to talk to Jennifer. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Do you believe, based on the facts of the case that you've seen him, that Chad Reed's former wife, Christina, should be charges brought against her?
Notice her head goes bobbly. She hates the wife, the ex-wife, and blames her. Look at her head. I think the question is, do you think she should be charged for aiding and abetting or starting this? And her head immediately goes yes, and then his answer is pretty political because he doesn't want to be seen attacking a mother.
Former wife, Christina, should be charges brought against her as either a co-conspirator or an accomplice in the murder of Chad Reed.
I'll let the AG's office decide that.
That was a political answer.
Anybody else?
I was
Yes.
wondering if there was a concern that publicizing the publicity of this case would jeopardize the investigation by the AG's office.
I don't think so. I mean, I think that the more light you shine on a situation, the more likely it is you're going to get action.
And anything else about the potential failure to stop and render aid that may come to light?
We don't know that yet. We're going to know more when we get the official reports. Okay, guys, thank you very much.
Okay, so that's the interview. So this is the Chad Reed lawsuit press conference. My video is going to be rebuttal to the Chad Reed lawsuit press conference. All right? Well, in that there, y'all can beat me up in the comments if I was unfair or you think I was biased or you think I'm misrepresentative. Go ahead. I mean, look, I like the comments to be productive. Let's not make it personal. All right? Well, in that there.